I'm Dave Asprey, and this is Biohacker News, a segment of Bulletproof Radio. Biohacking is the art and science of changing the environment around you and inside of you so that you have full control of your own biology. You might have seen my blog post saying that sometimes yogurt or probiotics can make you fat and foggy, and I've certainly had that happen to me. And some new research from Augusta University's Department of Gastroenterology supports that. It turns out that a study of 30 people with GI symptoms who took probiotics showed that 29 out of the 30 got brain fog from the probiotics. And this isn't to say that probiotics are bad for you, they can be really good for you, but that if you take them and you get brain fog, maybe you should try different ones. And the science behind this was in the Bulletproof diet, and it comes down to something called histamine. And we all know histamine from allergies, but it's also a neurotransmitter. And if you get too much histamine, it can make you tired. So for certain people, when you take yogurt, kombucha, different strains of probiotics, they can migrate from where they're supposed to be into your small intestine, where they sit there and they can actually make histamine. And the way you solve this is you look for probiotics that don't have the species that you learn you're sensitive to by trying them. There are 3 species of lactobacillus that can cause the problem. One is called reuteri, another is bulgaricus, and the other is called casei. These are known histamine formers. So if you have a problem with hives or with allergies or with food allergies and a problem with inflammation, you ought to try probiotics without those. And it's okay to say, these probiotics don't work for me, I'm going to find ones that do work for me. You'll also find that if you eat more prebiotics, which feed good bacteria in your gut, you can really help solve some of those problems. You may also need to eat no prebiotics for a little while, because it turns out if you have this small intestine bacteria overgrowth problem that they found in this study, sometimes you just need to let everything calm down for a little while, then take the good guys. If histamine is a problem for you, it may not be just probiotics. Look at soy sauce, fermented soy, and fermented fish as the most common offenders for people who get tired after they eat. Interesting news, the Mayo Clinic just came out with a meta-analysis of many different studies and found that people who take regular saunas have lower rates of heart disease, lung disease, and lower rates of cognitive decline. They also have lower overall mortality and lower blood pressure. And the Bulletproof take on this is that having a regular sauna is a good idea. And there's different ways to do it. You can do a steam sauna or a normal dry sauna, and those work. But it looks like infrared sauna, whether it's near infrared, which is more of a heat lamp sort of thing, or far infrared, they're both beneficial. So if you have a chance to hang out in a sauna for even 10 minutes or a half hour, it's worth doing on a regular basis. And there's a whole bunch of different mechanisms that come to work here, but one of the primary ones is it can detoxify things. Another one is it can change the structure of the water inside your cells to make it easier for your body to make ATP, which is an energy molecule, and for your body to do things like fold proteins, which you need to do to heal faster. So hop in the sauna, it's fun. And here's a bonus tip. When you're in a sauna, it's a really good idea to take some activated charcoal or to take some glutathione. And these are 2 compounds that I've used at Bulletproof for a long time to increase my own resilience. And the reason you do this is you can liberate toxins when you're in a sauna, and those toxins are going to go into your GI tract. And if you have things there that can make your liver work better or can actually bind to the toxins so you excrete them, you're going to feel better when you're done and you'll detox faster. The BBC just reported on new trials for genetically modified feed for salmon. And come on guys, we can do better than that. It turns out that farm salmon are just not good for you. They're a bad idea because they're bad for the environment and they're bad for you. They're higher in pesticides, toxins, parasites, pathogens, heavy metals, and worst of all, when you eat those things, you're supporting things that kill native fish populations in very well established patterns by introducing parasites into local waters. And this is the dark side of fish farming. So if you're going to eat farmed fish, it needs to be raised on land away from natural fish, which is rarely done. And even then, you're going to be eating fish that basically ate garbage. When you eat something that ate garbage, you're eating garbage. So stay away from the farm fish, and let's do what it takes to have healthy oceans and healthy rivers so we can get the fish that are required for our bodies to work well. A new study from Johns Hopkins University found that nitrates, chemicals that are used in cured meats, things like salami, hot dogs, even bacon, may cause mania, which is a state where you sometimes have euphoria, hyperactivity, insomnia, and other weird stuff like that. And what they're saying is that this is probably because of different types of bacteria in your gut. It turns out that some gut bacteria can take nitrates and make nitrosamines out of them. And this is something that also happens when you cook those foods or even when you ferment those foods. And the bottom line is you shouldn't be eating a lot of processed meat. Nitrate-free bacon is a good idea, but nitrate-free bacon is made with nitrites, which can do similar things. When it says celery extract, that's just nitrite from a healthy source, allegedly anyway. What to do about this? Take some vitamin C, because vitamin C can actually stop the formation of nitrosamines in the gut, which is kind of cool. It can also stop the formation of nitrosamines in the pan. And this is why commercially cured bacon made with nitrates in most countries has a little bit of ascorbic acid or vitamin C added. What this comes down to though is have healthy gut bacteria, get them tested, find out what's going on in there, and do what it takes to balance out your gut bacteria. And then it's actually okay to have some occasional processed meats, but don't have all the other MSG, gluten, artificial colors, artificial sweeteners, all the other crap they put in there. The best thing you can do is eat grass-fed, wild-caught foods that are not processed. But we all love bacon, and if you have some occasional bacon and you have healthy gut bacteria, it's actually good for you. The fat in bacon, if it's not overcooked, can be good for you. And you don't need to worry about occasional nitrates. Lots of them are bad. If you have dysfunctional gut bacteria because you eat sugar, antibiotics, and industrial meat, you should steer away from that stuff. So this is really a question of the system of your body. Researchers at Dundee Hospital in Scotland just figured out something interesting. They've known for a long time that having even small amounts of blood in your stool is a marker for colon cancer. But what they discovered here is that this is a marker for all sorts of other diseases in the body, which is yet another sign that inflammation in the body or anything that causes a breakdown of the barrier between your gut and the rest of your body is going to increase your risk of almost everything. And that's why eating foods that are not inflammatory is so important on the Bulletproof diet. And the things you can do to reduce your risk of this are make sure you're getting enough prebiotics, make sure you're eating enough vegetables. Even if you're in full ketosis, you have to eat your vegetables, otherwise you're not going to get the fiber you need and you run your risk of turning on that kind of inflammation. Researchers at Trinity College in Dublin just figured out something really interesting. They looked at the amount of belly fat that you have and found that it was associated with cognitive decline or reduced cognitive function, even dementia. So what this means is that even if you don't have the really bad fat that's around your organs, the fat that you can't see, which is the stuff that kills you first, having extra belly fat reduces your cognitive function. So what do you do about that? Well, there's this little book called The Bulletproof Diet I might recommend, but the most important thing you can do is don't eat sugar, don't eat damaged processed fats, don't eat grains. And if you just did those things, maybe cut your carbohydrate intake a little bit, you don't even have to go full ketosis. If you do that, or you do a full cyclical ketogenic diet the way I recommend, it doesn't really matter. But all of those approaches are going to move you away from having that extra belly fat. So if you don't like how you look in the mirror, it's not just how you look, it's how your brain functions. So if you just show up all the way in the world, it's up to you to do what it takes to reduce belly fat. And it's okay if it takes a while. It's okay if it takes a couple of years, but if you want your brain to work, you've got to look at how your pants fit. Researchers at the University of Alabama at Birmingham just did some groundbreaking research on skin and hair aging. They used mice, and they had mice that had a mitochondrial defect that made it so they couldn't produce energy in their cells. And what ended up happening was the mice really quickly developed wrinkles and lost hair. And when they reversed that chemically by turning their mitochondria back on, within weeks, the mice grew their hair back and lost the wrinkles. And this is one of the first big smoking guns that show that mitochondrial performance, the ability of the cells in your body to make energy properly, is tied to skin aging and to hair loss. That's really groundbreaking stuff because you don't have to be a mouse with weird genetic things going on. What you can do though is you can turn on your mitochondrial function. And Headstrong is the book I wrote that has everything I know about turning on mitochondria. But bottom line is not exposing yourself to things that reduce mitochondrial function would be a really good idea. Many prescription drugs do that for you. Antibiotics do it for you. Statins reduce mitochondrial function. So you want to avoid things like that. And you want to avoid toxins, heavy metals, pesticides. Almost everything like that reduces your cell's core ability to make energy. And that can show up in your skin, it can show up in your hair, and it can show up in your heart, your brain, everywhere else. So take the supplements to make your mitochondria work. Eat clean foods, eat grass-fed, wild-caught foods, eat lots of vegetables, and eat undamaged fats. And those things can make your mitochondria work better. And the idea there is that that can make your skin look good. And while you're at it, have some collagen protein. That seems to work for me. Researchers at the Swiss Tropical Public Health Institute just came out with some really disturbing information. They looked at 700 adolescents and found that electromagnetic fields from cell phones can specifically negatively affect development of memory in different regions of the brain. And that's a pretty large sample size. The bulletproof take on this is that the cat's out of the bag. Electromagnetic frequencies are generally not good for our mitochondria. And I've interviewed experts who talk about voltage-gated calcium channels in our cells. And that's the mechanism of action for why EMFs are bad for us. That said, cell phones are kind of useful. In fact, the risk reward on them is tough to calculate because the reward is very high. What that means you should do is what the researchers recommend, which is use a speakerphone or earbuds instead of holding the phone up to your head. And it's doubly important that your kids do this. In my house, the kids aren't allowed to have a cell phone up to their head ever, and I don't do it either. And they're not allowed to hold a cell phone that's transmitting most of the time because we just plug it in to wired connectivity so they can still use the information without getting, quote, cooked. But we also have Wi-Fi. We turn it on when we need it, we turn it off when we don't need it. And here's the tip for you. Put a lamp switch, it'll cost you about $5, right next to your Wi-Fi router. So after you brush your teeth at night, turn off your Wi-Fi. When you wake up, turn it back on. Now you just got a third less exposure to Wi-Fi. And if it actually turns out that Wi-Fi isn't harmful for you, by the way it is, but even if it turned out that way, all you did was you slept with no Wi-Fi on. You didn't lose anything by taking that one little step. More speakerphones, more earbuds, no Wi-Fi while you're sleeping, it's a great start. If you like Biohacker news, tune into Bulletproof Radio regularly and hear the in-depth reports and interviews of people who are doing this kind of work. And also leave a review. It's great for me to know that this is helpful for you.